For many people, The Partridge Family was never just a television show. It was a song, a face, a colorful bus, and a time that felt a little softer. The series ran only from 1970 to 1974, but for millions of viewers, it lasted much longer. Some shows do not disappear when they end. They settle into memory, and years later, all it takes is one title, one voice, or one familiar face to bring it all back. What makes looking back now so moving is not only seeing where the cast ended up, but also seeing how far they came. It is seeing what time did to the people who once felt like part of our own lives. Some became even bigger stars. Some stepped quietly away. Some went through far more than anyone could have imagined. And when it comes to the face that still brings back the strongest memories for so many fans, one name rises almost instantly. David Cassidy was not just the breakout star of The Partridge Family. For many viewers, he was the face of a whole season of youth. As Keith Partridge, he had that rare mix of charm, softness, and star power that made him almost impossible to forget. He was the boy on magazine covers, the poster on bedroom walls, the smile that seemed to belong everywhere at once. For many women who watched in those years, David Cassidy was not simply popular, he was unforgettable. And it was not only the way he looked, he could really sing. That mattered, because songs like I Think I Love You did not stay inside the show. They slipped into everyday life. They became part of the emotional soundtrack of that time. Even now, hearing his name can bring back the music, the excitement, and the feeling of being young at exactly the right moment to fall under his spell. By the early 1970s, David Cassidy had become much more than a sitcom star. He was a worldwide teen idol, and the attention around him exploded into full-blown Cassidy mania. The fame was enormous, the schedule was relentless, and the pressure of living inside that image was far heavier than most people could see. To the public, it looked dazzling, but the reality behind it was much more complicated. As the years went on, David kept performing and recording, but the weight of fame and personal struggle never fully disappeared. He passed away in 2017, and for many fans, that loss felt deeply personal, as if a piece of their own youth had quietly gone with him. And yet, when people remember David Cassidy now, they do not remember only the sadness at the end. They remember the spark, the hair, the smile, the records, the posters, the rush of hearing a song and feeling, for a moment, that life was just beginning to open. That is why he still matters. Time changed the man, but the feeling he left behind never really went away. But the Partridge Family was never built on teen idol energy alone. Part of what made that world so comforting was the woman at its center. Shirley Jones did not come to the series as someone still trying to prove herself. By the time she stepped onto that colorful bus as Shirley Partridge, she had already been a film star, a musical star, and an Academy Award winner. Long before she became the mother of television's most memorable family band, she had made her mark in films like Oklahoma, Carousel, Elmer Gantry, and The Music Man. She had that rare ability to seem polished and natural at the same time. But for many viewers, what mattered most was not the Oscar. It was the feeling she brought to the show. Shirley Partridge was warm without being weak, capable without seeming hard, and loving without becoming overly sweet. In a world full of youthful energy, catchy songs, and constant motion, Shirley Jones gave the series steadiness. She was the calm at the center of the bus, the presence that made everything feel held together. That mattered, especially to women watching at home. She did not just play a mother. She played a mother who worked, led, held the family together, and still carried herself with grace. Some stars remain in memory because they burned brightly and left too soon. Shirley Jones remained for a different reason. She gave people something steadier. She bridged the golden age of Hollywood musicals and a gentler era of television. And she did it with warmth that never felt forced. That is why she still means so much. When people remember Shirley Jones, they remember a kind face, a familiar voice, and a presence that made the whole world of the Partridge Family feel a little more like home. And once that warmth was there, the show had room for another kind of memory too. Not the rush of a teen idol, not the steady comfort of a television mother, but something quieter. For many viewers, Susan Dey held that place. As Laurie Partridge, she brought a calm, grounded sweetness to the show. She felt like the pretty older sister, the one who seemed gentle, self-possessed, and just a little out of reach. She did not need to dominate a scene to leave an impression. Her quiet presence was the impression. What makes Susan Dey's story even more remarkable is that she had almost no acting experience when she won the role. She was only 17 when she joined the series, and yet she quickly became one of its most recognizable young stars. With her dark hair, blue eyes, and understated warmth, she became one of those faces people could recognize instantly, even years later. And for many longtime fans, one image still comes back right away: Susan at the keyboard, calm and composed in the middle of that bright, music-filled world. But what makes her story especially satisfying is that she did not remain frozen in that Laurie Partridge image. Years later, Susan Dey changed the way the public saw her. When she stepped into the role of Grace Van Owen on LA Law, she moved into a sharper, more mature chapter. The same actress who had once represented wholesome 1970s television became a poised, intelligent, award-winning dramatic performer. That was a true reinvention. And that second chapter matters, because for some viewers, Susan Dey will always be Laurie Partridge. But for others, she became proof that a young television favorite could grow into a serious actress with real authority and depth. Then, unlike many stars who stay close to nostalgia, Susan chose a very different path. She stepped away from Hollywood and built a quieter life, remaining deeply private ever since. There is something moving about that choice. She did not spend her later life chasing old fame. She simply moved on in her own way. And maybe that is one reason she still fascinates people. For some, it is Laurie at the keyboard, all softness and youth. For others, it is Grace Van Owen, composed and commanding. Either way, Susan Dey belongs to more than one era of a viewer's life. But if Susan Dey's story shows how gracefully a life can evolve, the next story reminds us that time does not always move gently. Danny Bonaduce was the sharpest contrast between television light and real-life struggle. If Shirley Jones gave the Partridge Family its warmth, Danny gave it much of its spark. As Danny Partridge, he was the fast-talking red-headed kid who always seemed to have a comeback ready. He was funny, sharp, restless, and a little too confident for his own good. That was exactly what made him so memorable. With the red hair, the freckles, the bass guitar, and that unmistakable voice, he became one of the easiest faces in the cast to recognize. He brought mischief into the middle of all that music and sweetness. But life after the show was much harder than that bright television image ever suggested. After the Partridge Family ended, Danny went through years of serious struggle, addiction, homelessness, legal trouble, and long stretches when it seemed as though the promise of his early fame might never fully return. But what makes Danny's story worth telling now is not just the fall. It is the way he kept rebuilding. A radio interview in Philadelphia opened the door to a second life in entertainment. And over time he became something very few former child stars ever managed to become. Relevant again in an entirely different field. His story was never only about what went wrong. It was also about endurance. In later years, some people knew him as much from radio and reality television as from the Partridge Family. He spoke openly about addiction, mental health, and the damage fame can do when it arrives too early. It was not always comfortable to hear, but it made him feel real. Then came another difficult chapter. In 2023, Danny faced a serious health crisis related to hydrocephalus, underwent brain surgery, and retired from radio later that year. And maybe that is why he still stays with people, not only because of the red hair, the bass, and the mischief, but because he kept going. And after a story like that, the heart needs a quieter place to land. Around all those young stars was another face longtime viewers never really forgot: Reuben Kincaid. David MADDEN played the family's manager with exactly the right mix of frustration, humor, and heart. He helped give the show balance. Without him, the family had energy. With him, the show had rhythm. And what makes his story especially moving is that his kindness was not only something he performed on screen. When Danny Bonaduce was still young and dealing with instability at home, David MADDEN and his wife opened their home to him. That one detail says a great deal about the kind of man he was. Longtime viewers may also remember that Chris Partridge was played by two different boys, Jeremy Gelbvax in the first season, then Brian Forster for the rest of the series. It is one of those small television details fans never quite lose. Brian became the Chris many viewers remember most clearly, while both boys ultimately went on to very different lives outside Hollywood. And for longtime fans, there are still more familiar faces in that world, including Rick Siegel, Gary Dubin, Elaine Giftos, Rosemary DeCamp, and others who helped make the show feel complete. Some stayed in entertainment, some built very different lives, some have since passed on. Because nostalgia is rarely built from only the stars, it is built from the whole atmosphere around them. Taken together, the story of the Partridge Family cast is about much more than where everyone ended up. It is about what happens when a television show enters your life at exactly the right moment. A song plays, a face appears on screen, a family rolls by in a colorful bus, and somehow, all of it stays with you. That is why looking back now feels so moving. David Cassidy still brings back the rush of first crushes and pop records. Shirley Jones still feels like warmth and steadiness. Susan Day still carries that quiet beauty and grace that so many viewers never forgot. Danny Bonaduce reminds us how different real life can be from the bright world television lets us see. And the rest of the cast help complete the picture. Because memory is rarely made from just one or two people. It is made from the whole world we once stepped into. Maybe that is why the Partridge Family has lasted so well in people's hearts. It was never only about the songs, or the bus, or the weekly stories. It was about a feeling. A brighter, simpler, more hopeful feeling that many viewers still carry with them. Time changed the people we watched, as it changes all of us. But it did not erase what they meant when they first came into our lives. And maybe that is the real reason these faces still matter. They do not just remind us of a television show. They remind us of who we were when we loved it.